Alright, so looking at Narliata, I skipped your Junker Queen gameplay because I really don't know how to play Junker Queen, and since it was just one small engagement, I am on I was just figured I'd focus on your Zarya gameplay since that's what you asked for anyways. I play a good bit of Zarya, but I don't really play Junker Queen at all. Just good waiting for your team, making sure everybody's together before you push. You already lost your Moira. Okay. So this to start off, this is not your engagement that you want to take, right? Like you want to hold the cart here, right? And that's perfectly fine. I mean, this is the right place, right? You don't want them to get their forward spawn if possible. So before you jump, what the two thoughts basically are either you can wait for your whole team to get here, right? If you're waiting for your Pharah, but you're not going to wait for your Pharah because you're just going to jump down, right? So you might as well jump down early since you have your 4 players and you're not waiting for your 5th player. Where you'd want to be holding this, if you're not going to continue to hold high ground, there's nobody that really benefits from this, right? Because you're at 0 charge, right? So your right clicks are not going to do any damage to them. Your Reaper does not do any damage from far range. The only person who's going to do any damage from this range is your Pharah, and she's coming back from spawn. So there's not really any point in being up here in this because nobody's coming up to contest this. You do have your Moira, whoever, or on the other hand, who's over here. I mean, she shouldn't be pushing in, but this is where you should be right now, is coming down here to then take this space and try to contest this corner, because this allows you to sit behind here. Whenever you take too much damage, you walk behind the corner, right? And then they have to try to force out into here, which in order to try to control that corner and get push you back. But then you have places to retreat to, right? You have over here, you have over here you can retreat to. If you jump down here, you just jump in the middle of their team, which is what you end up doing. So you don't need to be just jumping into the middle of their team in order to try to contest the card, right? If you just went ahead anyways, since you have your 4 players here, and then this Sombra, would be a lot less likely to come up and kill your Moira if you were up here with her, creating the space, making it harder for her to come around. So yeah, I just would have been down here, would have been the place to try to contest them. Um, yeah, just walking in here and beaming the turret. Notice how everybody on their team is just kind of like you're right in front of them. They're all looking at you because you just jumped in front of them, right? And your team is probably going to be, you would hope they'd be behind you, but on the other hand, if you're suiciding in like this, there's a good chance they won't be. And I don't know if they end up. I mean, your Moira dies to the Sombra over here, right? Your Mercy and your Reaper go to try to help her, and so now, yes, you're left alone. The Pharah is coming back from spawn still, so it's. So now hopefully you just gotta hope that your team comes back for you, or waits for you to come back. Sorry. Okay, so now your team is over here, right? And you're coming over here. I, I don't know if you're still trying to get it looks like they already got the forward spawn. The only person in here is your Reaper, who is in on their entire team, right? Like there's 3v1 here, so he's going to die very quickly. I'm not sure what you're going on down here. So they killed your Sombra, killed your Pharah where you should have been over with your team, right? And then like there's no reason to really be coming back here, right? Unless your whole team is coming in and you're playing more of like a dive comp or a brawl comp where you need to get up really close. Uh, which I guess a bit more with your Reaper could be playing that with you, but he was already in, and the rest of your team is over here. Like if everybody is together, you're playing a more brawly comp, sure, then you want to get up close and you can fight them from here and kind of use this area as cover. But right now you're by yourself, and you knew where your team was because you can see them there, and now their whole team is focusing you. Just a minor thing, you could have grabbed this health back on the way since your supports were kind of out of position to get to you. Um, and then right here, just like in close quarters like this, this guy's here, just start beaming him. Don't run through because you run through ammo very quickly with your balls, and you don't actually end up getting any hit markers really with these last couple of them. So that's like 50 ammo worth right there that you could have just spent. So you could have already been probably half health by now. And I mean, this is pretty dumb on his part. Like he's just there's no reason for him to be walking into your team and doing this. So now you have the issue of you have no bubbles, right? You have 6 seconds of cooldown. Luckily, you have the advantage, right? Because they're down. You have a 5v4, but you do need to be careful with this next engagement because you have no bubbles here. You just used 2 of them to run away because you went off by yourself, and then you went off by the right. Uh, used just a third one to use the Torb. Right. So the Sombra came behind again, killed your Mercy. And you're 50 health here. This is a very dangerous time to be pushing. I know you want the kill, but again, you have no bubbles, right? So yeah, this is just. So this entire time you keep on kind of running low on bubbles, and I think you're doing a good job of just sitting back here, right? Because if they pushed you at any point here, you probably would have died if they were tracking your bubbles and realized that you didn't have any. So just this is something you need to be with Zarya. You need to be like when you're stepping forward, you should normally have one bubble off cooldown and at least halfway to your next one, more than likely. Because her engagements in Overwatch 2 are a lot more based around the bubble cooldown, while on Overwatch 1, she was, you could use them a lot more for just getting charged and whatnot, but in Overwatch 2, it's, if you don't have bubbles, then you can die. Especially as you get to higher ranks, the players will be tracking more likely your bubble usage, so if they realize that, you're on your final bubble that you just popped, then they'll normally pop it and try to kill you. Or if they realize that you're out, they'll just try to kill you, right away. So it's just something to keep in mind. So there's not a ton that you can really do here. But again, this is also where it comes in hand. If you would have had your bubble cooldown, at any point, if you would have been trying to save your bubbles, you had 1 second here. The Ramacho was getting low. You might have been at a point where you could have held him off. Another thought to use. I don't know how long you've had this. I guess you get this mid. Yeah, as I was saying, if you had another point here, if you had a bubble right here, something you can always do sometimes is just pop grav to hold the Ramatra off, right, and get it out of his range, and then you can still be launching balls at him, and then he's forced to back off and his end his ult, or just sit there and block and probably die. But obviously that's not something you can really do here, because you get it like a second before you die, and you didn't have any bubbles. But you see how soon he died afterwards. Yeah, this not really needed. Like Grav is a very, very strong ultimate, and here I believe it's just these two that are left here. So you have your entire team here, right? Versus this Ramatra's body that's standing up for some reason. That's weird. So you have these two here, right? Like they have to run away. If they stay and try to fight, like your team will absolutely destroy them because they're sitting here right next to your spawn, right? You have a 5v2. There's no reason to waste your ultimate just to clean up the kills, And even then, it only ends up getting one. Like if they get it away, it's not the end of the world. You can hear the Sombra coming again. Bubble, yeah. I'd probably bubble your Moira there just to be safe. If you get a chance where you have, I mean, this situation where you don't really need your bubbles because you're, not engaging yet. It's okay to use a bubble. So again, bubble usage. every one thing, pretty much every guide that I've seen, every high ranked player that plays Zarya has agreed with this for Overwatch 2 is don't use bubbles to get charge at this point, right? Like it sucks beaming people with zero energy, doing very little damage. Like I know how much it sucks to just tickle, but um to it's something of when you're the only tank there and your sole job is pretty much to take space, you need to make sure that you're able to push or this is your only defensive ability is Zarya. It's not like Orisa where you have like spin and fortify and whatnot. So as you're running out here, right, your team is close to you, but you don't want to walk out here and use a bubble, right? And then all of a sudden, okay, they push you and you start taking more damage as your team's still trying to catch up, but like before your team's even really with you quite, like they're coming, right? Your Reaper's getting into position, your team is coming, your Pharah's not shooting at them yet. I mean, like the only person they can shoot at is you. So coming out here, you're not really creating space for your team. Your team isn't here yet, and there's just no reason to be using it this early in engagement, right? You just sit back here and chill. Okay, so now again, right? Like you're already 3 seconds on. I mean, when you used it, it was I think 5 second cooldown. That's not a good way because you're just starting this team fight now, right? Like your Reaper is in here. You, again he shouldn't necessarily be quite yet. I mean, this isn't the worst time for him to go in, but now like all of your bubbles are used, right? And you guys are just focusing this Sombra in the back. So there's not much pressure being put on their team, but it's alright. Like I think this is another thing of like Overwatch 1 Zarya, this is how you play her. But Overwatch 2, you need to be more towards the front, right? So it's alright to be, like, you need to know where your team is at when these guys are over here, but then also when the people are on their back line, right? So maybe it's, especially when you have a Mercy Moira, right? They can kind of pocket each other, as opposed to normally the Sombra has been killing them when there's only one of them, or when they're nowhere near, right? So you could always turn around if you had a bubble, throw a bubble on her. Her and the Moira can easily handle that Sombra then while the Mercy's bubbled, and then you can keep holding off your front line. If you were looking and seeing your Reapers in here, there's another chance to bubble your Reaper, but that's good that you bubble your Mercy while she's resing. That's good. Yeah, and I think this bubble's fine using one there, just simply because it's like there's no engagement coming as of now, so you're going to get your bubbles back already, right? So right now, I would not be pushing this robot because I mean you could see that like they're coming back here to push your team. I believe, I mean, this is a diva that's just not rendered in over here. Oh, no, she's flying it. Okay, so the diva's in on your team, right? The supports are coming in, the soldiers coming in, like 4 of their players are back here on your team. This is a time to stop pushing the objective, because if they come back here and if they end up killing your team, then you don't, like, there was no point in pulling the bot, right? Then you're just giving them the bot because you wouldn't participate in the team fight. So we'll see how it turns out, but normally you do want to come back, even if it's just for a few seconds, just to make sure that your team doesn't die, because as the tank, you should be, making sure that their entire team dives into your team, that you are with them, including the enemy team's tank was already there, like there was nobody contesting the point from you. But it seems, I think that the biggest thing that I see is that it seems like you're just using your bubbles to try and get charge, right? Because now you're at 1 energy and you have 8 second cooldown with no bubbles available, and that's a very bad. to be sitting in. Like it just kind of feels like your DPS are cleaning up every time that you make a mistake like this, and you'll have no bubbles or anything, and then your DPS go and get 2 or 3 picks, and the enemy team backs off. It's been kind of how this has been going. So, I mean, your team just kind of gets run through at this point. So again, another bubble where it's just, I mean, nothing happens here. No one's even shooting at you to give you energy. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody really cares that you're here, right? Um, like this isn't a bad spot to be. Don't get me wrong. But their diva is up here as long as you're aware that their diva is over here. The rest of their team is over here. I mean, you can still be coming and taking this space, right? And pushing their back line that's here is a good place. Like I definitely would push their back line here since their diva isn't here, and your team is still in a pretty good position to follow up on you. But you need to make sure that you're actually with your, if you're going to use your bubble, then have a reason for it, right? Because you're not even pushing into them, engaging them yet. Now you're engaging them, but your bubble's already gone, so you didn't get any energy from it. See, okay, this fight I actually think you did really well on, right? Because it may not seem like you did much from like first glance, because it was just like you just fighting their supports, but also realize that they have no supports on their team, right? Like you have 2 pockets on, your Reaper and your Pharah. I mean, it's their Diva's not getting healed, so she gets demeched because you've had their supports off. So I think that's actually a good job that you've been just holding them, and you did a good job making sure you didn't die. You're giving bubbles to your team when you needed it, right? And now that their tank's dead, it's pretty much just win. So also again, like another bubble here, just you never know when you're going to need these, right? Like you could, even if you've already won this team fight, which you have, there could still be a point where one of your squishies is going to get picked, and you'll need that bubble, right? So waiting for the, like, just this is the only thing that's a brig. Like the brig can just easily stop shooting you. If anything, I would look for the soldier and maybe try to heat his helix rockets or something with your bubble, like that, yeah. Or maybe if the Reaper started losing his 1v1, maybe that would be a time to use it if that were to happen, which obviously didn't. But it seems like you're kind of using your bubbles off cooldown, like even with the Pharah there, like before they started shooting, when she was about to go in, you just bubbled her, and a lot of times you're going for charge, and I think that's a really hard habit to break, especially if you played a lot of Zarya in Overwatch 1, that if you bubble your players, to get charged, you're not really going to I mean, it's more of a waste than in this time, just simply, and again, like this was probably should have been your first bubble right here, right? You should have like 1 bubble left, right? Because this one's fine. Like this was a good bubble, just to walk out, and you're taking a lot of damage, and just to push their team back a little bit. Again, I wouldn't even know honestly who you bubbled here. Like no one's low. Everyone is full health on your team. Uh, your Mercy isn't. I mean, maybe she's getting shot at by the soldier, but she's still full health at the moment. There's not really any point to just be instantly bubbling. You only get 11 energy from it. It's just like I don't think your gameplay is poor at all. I think it's just your bubble usage is normally not getting a ton that's going on with it. I mean, it's very. Oh, I'll just watch this. But in times like this, where you're face tanking a soldier using tac visor, right? When you're in the face of someone using tac visor, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I wish I had a bubble. Or imagine if you had two bubbles at that point, right? He beams through your, or he burns through your bubble, right? And then even if you have a 2 second cooldown on the next one, and then use that, you might kill that soldier, and that would completely turn the tide of the fight, right? Because it's all about Zarya. Like if you don't have bubbles, right, then you die. I mean, especially I mean, if you're 1v1ing a soldier who has his ultimate papped, it really just comes down to whether do you have bubbles or not is what matters. You need to watch that the Ashe on the left. I mean, they kill them, but you're not really looking to see where the rest of their team is. It's good when you peel back, and then you just be careful with the Moira because she can do a lot of damage. Again, another bubble that really doesn't do anything. It only gives you 7 charge. It doesn't keep anybody from dying, and now you pop your bubble and just nobody shoots at you. Like you don't wait till you're taking damage even or anything. You just pop your bubble, you walk forward, their team just ignores you because you have your bubble up. You're on 0 charge. That's it. You're not a threat, right? So it's right here where your Reaper is half health and the Diva and Moira are actively shooting him, right? Like that could be a time to be using it. Again, your Reaper was just using Wraith. He wasn't really in any too much immediate danger. That wasn't a right bubble. Like you seen your Pharaoh was getting pushed off, right? But now the Diva is jumped into your back line. Um, yeah, it's. I mean, your team should kind of. I mean, your Pharaoh should. I guess your team is pushing in without. They don't really. Yeah, I guess you guys are kind of in a 3-player scenario. Well, the Diva just took out your Mercy here. I guess that's where that lost. Was yeah. I mean, this one's kind of on your DPS. Like there's no reason for your Pharah to be in here, right? Like your Pharah and your Mercy just fly into a room with the enemy tank and they die for that, and that's not your fault, right? Like you shouldn't have to be for that. Yeah, at this point, yes, you're gonna have to back up and just try to get right. You have 30 seconds, so all you can do is bubble your Moira and walk backwards and hope she pockets you and you can both get out. It's the only way you're gonna get really another chance at this. Because you have time for everybody to get together, right? So you just need to get ready to contest the bot here. This is not bad spots for Grav, yep. Okay, a couple things here. So there's 2 things here with your Grav timing is good, right? I mean, I probably shoot it maybe like a second earlier before, like when you see these guys turn the corner, now grab right away because you have 400 health, and then by the time you shoot your grab, you have 44 health now. So if you had done that a second earlier, right, you bubble, which is the correct play, right? Now you right click into these. There's 2 things you can do. You can right click into here and hit all of them for a lot of damage and damage all 4 because your beam's only going to damage whoever's in front. Or you can beam to the right here and kill the lamp so that your team can finish follow up on it. Because if you're just beaming one person at a time, I mean, you have 3 or 4 people caught in this. So this is absolutely like a must. Well, 4 people. Yeah, I see the health bars. So either beam the lamp and kill the lamp so that you and your team, and then right click with your team to help them finish, or you just right click because you're the only person that probably that has an angle on this lamp. Yeah, you're the only person who can hit this lamp. You can see it right in front of you. If you just kill this, like it's easy, they all die. But as long as that stays up, like no one else on your team can really hit this. I don't know where your Phyro's at, to be honest. But your Reaper is back here. He can't follow up on you. Your Moira, like, oh, your Phyro's up here. Yeah. So they none of them can see this lamp that's down here, right? But you have direct line of sight on it. So you should just kill this lamp, and then right click this entire thing, this entire group of people since they're all there. That, did you step off of the robot here? Oh. And so that's yeah, yeah, obviously that's either one of you could have stayed on here, but generally as tank you'd be the one to be sitting on there. So overall, just bubble usage is the main thing that you want to improve on. I think like a lot of times your gameplay was fine, but you just would kind of use your bubbles off cooldown, or anytime you would sometimes you would just hear the enemy shoot and you would bubble, or you would see one of your teammates getting close to them and you would bubble, and you wouldn't wait for anyone to take damage with it, and you weren't using them to take space. Like a lot of times it's sometimes if you go out, you're at 300 health, it gives you, they're shooting you, it gives you charge, right? It gives your healers time to get you back up to full health, and it allows you to move forward and push the team back a bit. And when you did, the times that you did, like it worked. But most times your bubble usage was mostly just to like I said, either off cooldown or you intended to use it for energy gain. But you maybe get like 15, 20 energy a lot of the times off your bubbles. So just as is something you can look up on guides as well, like a lot of Zarya guides for Overwatch 2. Make sure they're Overwatch 2 guides, because that's something that I switched or had to relearn, was like bubble usage for Overwatch 2. I know A10 does a lot, does really good on that. If you look him up, he's got some really good Zarya videos. Um, I'm sorry, I know this video probably wasn't the most helpful, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight on how you could be changing things up. So hope you found it helpful.